Hello everybody, this is Ori speaking. I'd like to speak with you today about martial arts, and in general I would like to speak about the difference between Judo and Jiu Jitsu, and what I feel is missing in each one of them, and how they can complement each other. And then I would compare my opinion about an Olympic black belt judoka with a highly competitive jiu-jitsu black belt in a jiu-jitsu match. So let's start with judo. As we know, it's mostly tashiwaza techniques, it's the standing techniques, it's the takedowns, and it's the niwaza exchanges. Now let's talk about what is great in judo. First is that it's very aggressive. When you train judo, when you're going to judo and you come back to jiu-jitsu and then you go back to judo, you feel the difference in the aggressiveness between each art. Like when you go with an elite judoka, you feel like when he grabs you, you're going for a ride. Now, judo especially emphasizes the tashiwaza techniques, and of course there is the niwaza exchanges. However, in the niwaza exchanges, when there are niwaza exchanges, the groundwork is very quick, and you must like pass the guard, sweep, armbar, choke, or progress in the ground quick, or the referee will stand you up. And that's something that makes judokas on the ground very aggressive compared to jiu-jitsu guys. Of course, in the standing techniques, they're very strong. They'll take you down, of course. They have great techniques, and no matter what, they probably are going to take you down. Now, of course, when you take judo and you put it in jiu-jitsu, you have to modify a little bit the techniques. Since, for example, I would say judo techniques that I had great success with them in jiu-jitsu, but not in jiu-jitsu, but other techniques in judo that I would not use in jiu-jitsu. So for example, techniques that I've had great success in jiu-jitsu are like harai goshi, uchimata, sticky foot, which stands for kosotogari, osotogari, any foot sweep, kochigari, uchigari, anything inside trips were really good. And a lot of judo techniques could be not modified, but you could counter their wrestling attacks with judo techniques. And since most people in jiu-jitsu don't know judo, you're doing really well. However, I wouldn't use like makikomi techniques such as harai makikomi or osodo makikomi or anything connected to back exposure, or even ippon seonage or drop seonage. You have to be really good with it, because they'll take your back, and especially when the opponent is your height or shorter than you, you have to go very low on your knees to execute a drop seonage. But when the opponent is taller than you, I think you can execute any ippon seonage or drop seonage in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match, as long as you're skilled enough to do so, without exposing your back. But in general, some techniques I would not use in Jiu-Jitsu, as I said, makikomis, or stuff that expose your back too much. Now, like in Jiu-Jitsu, when you enter a Jiu-Jitsu match compared to Judo match, there is something that is different and it's the strategy of the match. Because when you're going to a Jiu-Jitsu match, you know that the takedown is only 2 points, and sometimes you might fall to his guard, and sometimes you'd rather pull guard instead of takedown exchange, because pulling guard strategically is smarter in some cases. And in judo, you're putting everything towards the takedown, mostly trying to get a ippon, so you don't care about your back exposure, because you got the ippon, so you don't care if he takes your back. But he might take your back in jiu-jitsu, so that's why you gotta understand how to modify your judo for jiu-jitsu. Now, something that is missing in jiu-jitsu and exists in judo is the aggressiveness of judo. Judo is very aggressive, it's very hard, it hurts the back, and when a judoka comes to jiu-jitsu, you feel it. You feel the aggressiveness, you feel how strong he is, and it's really, really hard. Now, when you go to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, unfortunately, due to safety measures, they don't really practice takedown exchanges, and that's really, really, it's not sad, it's just something that I feel like that is missing in Jiu-Jitsu, and they should put more emphasis towards it. So a lot of times you go to a school, they start from the knees, or they start from the guard, or whatever, but the real match starts standing, and then you get to a point that a lot of people reach a high level in Jiu-Jitsu, such as purple belt, brown belts, black belts, but they don't have takedown skills, they're not good in a standing position, and that's something they're missing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about highly competitive guys such as Bucheche or Keenan Cornelius or Gordon Ryan or stuff like that. I'm talking about average brown to black belts that not all of them go to compete, because most of the people do jiu-jitsu for passion, for fun, to feel part of something. They're not going to do jiu-jitsu to be champions. So they reach to a level that they're very, very, very good on the ground, but they lack basic standing techniques, and which is actually harder to learn. It's harder to learn standing techniques compared to ground techniques. Standing techniques are harder. Now let's compare between a Olympic judoka black belt to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, who is non-competitive, just normal black belt who does it for fun and competes a little bit, and then we'll take a competitive black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So an Olympic judoka, when you put him in a Jiu-Jitsu match, once he understands the strategy, and they all train Jiu-Jitsu also, he would probably beat, in my opinion, 70% of the black belts, because he has good takedowns, so they can't stand with him, and even if they pull guard, he has very good guard passing, and he's very aggressive towards the submission. Very quick, very aggressive. So I would say that he would beat 70% of the black belts in a jiu-jitsu match. However, when you take the Olympic judoka and you put him against highly skilled jiu-jitsu guys who are also good in the standing position, but they also have good guards, let's say Keenan Cornelius or Rafael Lovato, or people that are really, really, really good, or JD Torres or whatever, they're really, really good, but they're not super accomplished judokas. I would say that it would be, I wouldn't say that specific judoka would beat them in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match, because they have modern guards, good guards, very good flexibility, lapels and everything. So for the judoka to come to Jiu-Jitsu, it would be, to have a match, a Jiu-Jitsu match with these guys, it would be very hard for him to beat, and I would say that he would lose. But 70 to 80% of the regular black belts, I would say that this specific judoka would beat, because he has the aggressiveness, he has the takedowns, he has the guard passing, and some of them do play guard, but they're not like the top guard players, but he would beat 70% of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. However, when you take the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys and you put them in judo, then they have no chance, because learning standing techniques is very, very hard on the body in general, and very, very aggressive, and it hurts the back, and it's hard to adapt. So even if they are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, unless they train judo for a long time or they come from a judo black background, I wouldn't say that they have a chance against a judoka in a judo match. So it's very easy to transition from judo to jiu-jitsu. However, it's very hard to transition from jiu-jitsu to pure judo. Now, let's talk about some techniques that I said it before, that I had a little bit of success in jiu-jitsu, and I think are very good, or like because most of the jiu-jitsu guys, they learn basic takedown skills such as wrestling techniques, single leg, double leg, or whatever, but you can easily counter them with judo techniques. So for example, uchimata, single leg uchimata, single leg arai goshi, sumigeshi from the single leg, stuff like that are very, very easy. Or a lot of times I try the double leg, but you sprawl, and once you sprawl, you just kosotogari or foot sweep them, and it tends to be easier to take down jiu-jitsu guys, but they're good on the ground, so don't get me wrong, they'll choke you out. So you have to be good on the ground also. So that's how I feel. I would say that, in my opinion, jiu-jitsu could be more entertaining if, or maybe it could get to an Olympic sport if you're taking jiu-jitsu and you ban the guard pulling, because the guard pulling makes the match slower, and then the opponents must play standing, and as they play standing, they play some sort of a judo wrestling. That's what they're playing. And if the judo, and let's say you give 4 points to the takedown instead of 2, the viewer, who is the consumer of the match, would understand what happens in the match. He would see that a takedown has been initiated and somebody has received the points for it. And then you keep rolling on the ground based on sweep, submit, pass, or whatever, based on the same points. And I think it would make the sport more entertaining. Because these days, for us jiu-jitsu guys, we understand what goes on in the match, but when somebody who has never done jiu-jitsu watches a jiu-jitsu match, he does not understand what happens, because he doesn't know that if you are in my half guard, actually I'm in a good position because I'm on bottom and you're on top, but you're in my half guard. And that's something that they don't understand, and it's hard to understand. So that's why once you do takedowns and rolling, that's something that is easier to understand for the jiu-jitsu, for the sport, and for the viewer. And that's why I feel like judo is an Olympic sport, because it's understandable. The viewer understands what happens in the match, even if he's never done judo in his life. He knows that John throws whatever, John throws Jeff loses because John got the ippon. So that's how I feel difference between both of them. And I'm not saying don't roll on the ground on jiu-jitsu, I'm just saying that play the takedown, finish the takedown, and then continue to the ground. That would make the sport, in my opinion, more entertaining. And of course, give and take, different rule sets. But if you want to take the sport to make it more entertaining, I would say play the takedown and then continue to roll on the ground until there is a submission or time or pass or whatever. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm just uploading videos these days about life, about business, about martial arts, about stuff in general that I like to talk about since the pandemic started, and it has allowed all of us to recalculate our lives. And that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's pretty simple, not a lot of editing, and that's just my opinion. So I want you to comment below and tell me what you think about it as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners and as Judo practitioners, or as martial artists, or people who do martial arts in general. And that's about it. Take it easy, take care, and stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye. Ori.